It's World History Chapter 1, so you got to write some of this stuff down. So at the beginning of each lecture, I'll have a little outline that goes over what we're learning about. Now, if it's super important, I communicate it to you by underlining. So today, you should know the difference between an artifact and a fossil, the difference between physical geography and human geography, and the difference between a primary and a secondary source. If you just write down the underlined words, that is all I need from you, okay? But if you want to get a little more out of the class, you're just like, I need more history, then you can write down all this different stuff. So one of the differences between a primary and secondary source, the reliability, the evidence, the bias. You can write this down, but we'll talk about it. Write down artifacts, fossils, physical geography, human geography, primary and secondary sources. Then, as I go over this, add to your notes, be like artifact. And then you write down what an artifact is. Fossil, you write down what that is and get started. So get started writing some of this down. It's important that you put chapter 1, especially if you're a hybrid student. Chapter 1, if you're online and you're a hybrid, it's important to put that. That way you know what you've done. Let's get rolling. Today, you should know the difference between an artifact and a fossil. If you don't know that cold right now, don't worry, you will in a minute. You should know the difference between a primary and a secondary source. You should be able to identify human and physical geographical characteristics. It sounds complicated, but it's not. You can put your pens down for a minute. Don't write any of this down. This is just chit-chat time. Okay, what is history? Okay, what is history? Who wants to tell me what they think history is? Okay, stuff that happened in the past. What would you like to add?
Like about a president.
Something with some evidence, okay?
History president, like facts.
Facts, okay, I like that. Is your breakfast history?
Yeah.
Or your breakfast maybe a year ago? Was that history? Why not?
That is history.
It is?
Because in the past.
So everything that happens in the past counts as history.
Yeah.
Because no offense, I don't want to read about your breakfast that you had a year ago. To me, that's kind of boring. Okay, so look, you can believe whatever you want, think whatever you want. There's no perfect magical definition. But my definition of history, it's the story that we tell ourselves about the past. Certain people, like Mansa Musa, I don't remember learning about him when I was your age. His star is on the rise. He's in every history book. Other people like Colonel Marion the Swamp Fox, that guy used to be super popular in American history, but now people have forgotten about him. And so history, the events of the past never change, but history does change. All right, so let's get going. There's some other things I want to talk to you about. Why you learn about history. It's not just some abstract class where we learn about some old dudes that you don't care about. You're actually learning about yourself, okay? The land that you stand on right now belonged to Spain longer than it's belonged to the United States. Did you know that?
No.
Okay. If you were to go back in time 500 years ago, the smart money would be to bet that you would be Spanish, that you would speak Spanish. What if that was true? What if Spain had held on to this land? What kind of food would you like? What kind of music would you like? All the things that you think are you would be a little different. Where do you begin and where does the programming of the past begin? Does that make sense? Like once England takes over on North America, now you speak English. Now you like different music. How does the past affect you? How did it change you? Who are you really when you take the past into consideration? That's why you're learning your history, is because it's about you. Hit me. Now it's okay. Hold on. Let me rephrase that. I shouldn't say this area was Spain. I don't know if I said that. This area was controlled by the Spanish. I mean, Spain is Spain. All right. Anyway, here we go. Okay. You should know. You also learn history so that you can understand other people and relate to other people. One of the things that I love about other cultures, food.
Yeah.
I haven't met a food I don't like. I like Chinese food. I like Thai food. I like food from Central America. I like Mexican food. I like it all. I never met a food I don't like. And not only that, when you start getting into the different cultural differences, now are you talking Szechuan Chinese or Hunan style? There's different Chinese foods, okay? And I love that stuff. And there's different types of African food. this one that's got like some pumpkin spice or pumpkins in it. It's super good. Anyway, let's see. That seems good. Okay, an archaeologist, don't worry about this. You don't, if you want to write this down, you can. This is not mandatory, but an archaeologist is a person who studies history through artifacts and physical remains. I'm trying to show you where the history comes from. Somebody digs this stuff up, and then they start putting together the story, and it goes into your history book. Okay, so this is sort of the origins. How do we know? How do we know that these people were here or were there?
Is a bit on the slow side.
But at least there's lots of parking.
The office can be a bit on the quiet side.
The accommodation's pretty rustic, but you get to meet the greatest friends of your life.
So this is a typical dig, especially in the Near East, where we have a group of workmen who are helping a set of students from Kiel University with their excavation. You can see they're using things like hand shovels and trowels because the work is quite delicate. We don't want to go through anything. So here they're actually clearing away some roof deposits from the building where it collapsed. And you can see it's an absolutely spectacular place to be working. You never know what you're going to dig up, and it's just nice and calm and peaceful. But you get those moments where it's very exciting when you find that thing, that special thing, whatever it might be, some kind of amazing human burial or some amazing find. And it's about setting it all in context. It's never about the one find. It's never about the one thing. It's about what it means as a whole.
So on excavations, often you live very close to the site. So, for example, at this site they have tents and they sleep here at night and they walk just over to the site, which is very close. And you live with a team. You have to get on with everyone. Everyone chips in. You make food. You sleep here, and you have amazing stars at night. The scenery, the whole sort of being outdoors and sort of roughing it a little bit. It kind of adds to the excitement of the job. So I first started getting interested into archaeology when I was
a fossil, the remains of, a fossil, the remains of something that was once alive. So all of you should be writing this down. This one was underlined, so you know you need to know a fossil. Fossil equals was once alive. Okay, hold on. I gotta talk to the camera real quick. So at home, you're writing this down. What is a fossil? The remains of something that was once alive. Okay, that's a fossil. Okay, we feel good about that? Let's go on to the next thing. Artifact. An artifact was made by humans. Okay, an artifact was never alive. So that's the difference between an artifact and a fossil.
We've named a new dinosaur, Moabosaurus utahensis. It has a long neck, a long tail, a huge elephant-like body. It's about 10 meters long, but that's small for a sauropod. We collected it near Moab, Utah, at a site called Dalton Wells. We've pulled over 5,500 bones from this one site, most of them belonging to this animal. So this is the humerus. This is from the left side. It's this bone right here. Look at these bones. You can learn all kinds of things about them. You can tell the angle they held their arms in or out at by looking at the bevel down here. So we have 18 individuals based on these brain cases we found. This would be where it hooks up to the vertebra. This is where the brain would be. And the brain extends only from here to here. It's the size of a Chinese egg roll. They have small brains. They were herbivores. They had very coarse teeth. And these were not useful for chewing the food. They were just useful for biting the food off and then swallowing. So 125 million years ago, when these animals died, there was a drought. And during this drought, hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 or so animals died. The surviving animals walked along and crushed these bones. And that's why only 3% of the bones we collect at this quarry are actually complete. It was found near Moab, Utah, so we honor the city for that. A paleontologist would think of Moab as a gold mine of dinosaur bones. We're really excited about this new dinosaur. It's one we've been working on for decades. We had to collect huge numbers of bones in order to get enough that were complete to describe the new animal. So we're thrilled to now have them all together and hang a name on this fellow, Moabosaurus utahensis. They have their arms in.
Okay. What is this right here? Artifact or fossil? Everybody. 1, 2, 3.
Fossil!
Fossil, because it was once alive. Excellent. All right. Now we're going to learn about latitude and longitude, longitude and latitude. Here we go. I want you to copy down this equation, and then we'll solve for x, okay, or solve for d. Yeah, right. I'm just kidding. Yeah, we're not doing that. Did I get you at home? I got you. Okay, we're not doing that. Here's what you need to know. You need to know the difference between longitude and latitude. So let's talk about it. Let me start with latitude real quick. Let me show you my world famous way to remember this so you'll never get it wrong on a test. Watch this, watch this. Okay. You cross the T's, you go across the C's. Boom, latitude.
That's cool.
Okay, so hopefully, thank you. Hopefully that'll help you remember it. Latitude lines. Notice the distance between each one is the same. You guys notice that? Feel good about that? But the size of the lines are different. This one's small. This one's big. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Are we tracking? The biggest latitude line is the equator, and it's totally a natural phenomenon. Longitude lines, see how they meet at the top? They're not the same distance. Okay, does everybody track that? Look, same distance no matter where you go. They're always going to be the same size line. This line, though, starts shrinking. Did you guys see that? Okay, the distance changes, but each line is the same size. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
The only reason this kind of matters at all ever, think of Utah real quick. Watch this. I'm just going to draw Utah in here. If you notice that Utah gets more narrow as you go to the top, if you look at a map, it starts getting narrower. It's because these lines start meeting the higher you go up to the north. This one, by the way, and I know you guys are getting bored. This is all arbitrary. All these lines are the same. We put the prime meridian through England, but it doesn't matter. You could have picked any of these to be the prime meridian, and it would have been the same. Over here, the equator is the equator. Like, you can't change that. This one's completely arbitrary. Okay? You should be able to know the difference between longitude and latitude. If I give you a globe of each one, and I say which one's latitude, what longitude, which one's latitude, you should be able to figure it out. What is this? What kind of lines are these?
Longitude.
Longitude. Everybody, what kind of lines are these?
Longitude.
These are?
Latitude.
These are?
Longitude.
These again.
Longitude. Latitude.
What are these? Latitude. Okay, cool. Making sure you guys are paying attention. Awesome. Good job. Did you guys get that at home? Okay, awesome job. Here we go. You don't have to write any of this down. Just watch it. It's kind of interesting. This is called solar insolation. And it's the amount of energy that the Earth receives. So at the equator, you get direct sunlight. And as you go down north or south, you get less sunlight, less energy. Voila, it's going to be cold on the poles. So this has way more to do with winter versus summer than the Earth being close or away from the sun, the tilt of the Earth. So here's Utah, and as we roll, we would, there's spin. As we would spin down here, we would be getting zapped by some pretty intense solar insolation. That's why it's 100 degrees. But in the winter, we're up here, we're not getting zapped by this ray, we're getting zapped by less direct insolation. So therefore, you're going to have colder and shorter days. Let's take questions. I'll go right to left. Hit me, dude. Physical geography versus human geography. Okay? If we made it, it's human geography. The city, the road, the this, the that. You should probably write this down. This was an underlined thing, okay? Physical geography. the ocean, the mountain, the river. And these two things work together to create civilization, so on and so forth. Okay. So check this out. At the middle school level, all you guys are doing is looking at the pie in two colors. You got physical geography, human geography. That's all you're doing. When you go upstream to high school or college, they just start subdividing it. So you pick two things, you know. How does the climate affect the politics in, name a place, you know, Brazil, something like that. You just take a slice from the green, a slice from the blue, you add a place, and voila, you're in college. But for now, we're just worried about physical and human geography, okay? So why is Salt Lake City the biggest city in Utah? The pioneers come out. You're not going to live on the top of the mountain. You're not going to live in the desert. You're going to pick the nice valley where the water flows in off the mountain. And so the physical geography dictates that this valley would be easy to live in. So the pioneers start the nice city there, and then it grows, and then we need oil or we need electricity, so we change the physical geography and we add roads, and round it goes. For this class, let's talk about, this is where this class you need to know, physical and human geography. These are the first civilizations, okay? These as well, but we're going to focus on these for now. What, if this is the first human geography, what would you expect to find from the physical geography? What would you expect to find at these locations? Hit me. Give a think real quick. You're going to start a new community. You're going to go camping, and you're never coming back. Where would you go camping? What would you want to be next to? Hit me. Go ahead.
You want to have like water?
Water is the answer. Ding, 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 ding. Check this out. Nile River, Tigris Euphrates, Indus River, Yellow, Ganges, Ganges. Okay? These are the major rivers. That's why these are the major civilizations. If the rivers were here and there, or something like that, you would have the civilizations be there, and there, okay? Spoiler alert, there's no Maverick and there's no Solbergs back then. If you want water, you've got to walk to the river. So you better, and not only do you like to drink, your crops like to drink. So you're going to live by the river. Yes, sir. You at home, write this down. I'm gonna check your notes when you come back to school, all right? Cool. Primary source equals first-hand account of the event. So, you know, some hieroglyphics from ancient Egypt. George Washington's diary, a coin used by the Romans. These are all primary sources. Here's a diary. This looks like some type of map. There's a stone carving. They were there during the time period. Primary source. This is where I make you yell back. That's to remind me. So I say, class, what is a primary source? And you all say 1, 2, 3. Cool. That's what that means. I'm supposed to make you yell it. A secondary source. You can write whatever you want. This officially says information from someone that did not witness the event. I would say the information, you know, it's been processed. Let's just say what they say. Information from someone that did not witness the event. The guy that writes your textbook did not witness the pyramids being built or the Revolutionary War or whatever event. He looks at the primary, or he or she looks at the primary sources and then writes the secondary source, writes your textbook, etc., etc. Okay, Solberg's, the market, is like a primary source. You can go to Solberg's, you can get ground beef, you can get lettuce, you can get buns, but you can't get a hamburger. You just get the raw materials. In-N-Out is like a secondary source. At In-N-Out, you can get a double animal style with pickles and grilled onions. But you cannot get a head of lettuce. You can't go to In-N-Out and say, hey, I'd like 1 pound of ground beef and a package of buns. They won't sell you that. One is ready for consumption. That's a secondary source. One is raw materials. That's a primary source. I hope that helps you learn. So here we go.
The content of your research project will be made up of primary and secondary sources. Primary and secondary sources come in many different formats, and there are benefits for referencing both types in your assignment. It can be difficult to figure out if a source is considered primary or secondary, but don't worry, because we'll explain the differences here so that you can decide which are best to use in your assignment. Primary sources are first-hand accounts of an event, topic, or historical time period. Anything that contains original information on a topic is considered a primary source. Examples of primary sources include things like letters or personal diaries or journals, original photographs, speeches, newspaper reports, creative works like paintings, plays, and music, and research data or surveys. It's a good idea to use primary sources in research papers because it allows you to form your own argument to defend your thesis, since the information you're using is unfiltered by another person's point of view. You're able to critique an original work using your own ideas. Secondary sources interpret, critique, or analyze primary sources. It is information that is created or published from primary sources. Examples of secondary sources include things like textbooks, essays or reviews, encyclopedias, newspaper articles that analyze or discuss events and ideas, and criticisms and commentaries. It's a good idea to use secondary sources in research papers because you can learn about new perspectives that you may not have even considered, and they can also strengthen your own argument in the assignment. For example, if you're writing a history paper about how the diversity of a city shifted during a certain time period, you could use data from the U.S. Census Bureau to compare populations across the decades. This type of information would be considered a primary source, as it's data that's simply been collected and compiled. There is no analysis. That's what you'll be doing in the paper. For the same topic, you could also use an article from a newspaper that reviews the data and draws conclusions or analysis from it, such as other ways in which the population might change or grow over time. Some sources, like scholarly journals and newspapers, can serve as both a primary and a secondary source, depending on which article you're reading. Articles that include things like eyewitness accounts or interviews and are published close to the time of the event you're researching would be a primary source. Articles that are published after the fact and include analysis or critiques are secondary sources. Primary and secondary sources can both strengthen and improve your research immensely by providing you with information to create an argument and defend your thesis statement. Now that you know how to differentiate between them, try using them in your own assignment.
Okay, what I want to mention here is this. Being able to circle A or B on a test in this class and get primary, secondary source, that's small kind. I'm talking about the big fish. All of you have access to a ton of information, but it's hard to know what information is valid and reliable, what's the quality of the information. Primary, secondary sources, understanding what is what, and where the bias and the inference and stuff comes in will help you in high school and college. Trust me, you want to pay attention. Thank you, everybody. Is this a primary or a secondary source? 1, 2, 3. Secondary source. The person that wrote this encyclopedia wasn't at all these events. Your textbook now, on the other hand, primary or secondary source?
Primary!
Secondary source. I almost tricked you. The textbook author he wasn't there. Did he watch them build the pyramids? Probably not, because then that would make you like 5,000 years old. Okay. This is a diary from an event. Primary or secondary source? 1, 2, 3. Primary source. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Make sure you guys know what we covered, and I'll see you back here soon.